The House is expected to vote today on a deal to raise the debt ceiling. That's despite growing pushback from a number of Republicans. And the pressure is on as Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen warns that the U.S. will run out of money by a week from Friday, triggering what the White House has called a catastrophic default. And there's a lot of pushback from both parties as they aren't quite happy unanimously with this deal. Virginia Congressman Bob Good is one Republican opposing the deal. Congressman, good morning. Thank you so much for making time as you guys have a busy day ahead. You have a background in finance. Are lawmakers being irresponsible with our nation? Like they have a credit card bill they're never going to pay off?
You are correct. Lawmakers indeed are being irresponsible. That's how we got to $32 trillion in national debt. Both parties have participated, been complicit in getting us to this point. Our debt to GDP is the highest it's been since World War II. While Democrats are worse at spending, or better at spending, you might say, than Republicans are, Republicans have contributed also. And this is our opportunity, though, in this debt ceiling battle to truly cut our spending, to put reforms in place like we had in the Limit, Save, Grow Act. Unfortunately, this bill doesn't do that. This bill is essentially an unlimited, unconditional debt ceiling increase of about $4 trillion. Instead of being at $32 trillion national debt, come January 25, when this expires, we'll be in the range of $36 trillion. Terrible harm being done to the country with the spending that's on display now in Washington. And this bill, unfortunately, is woefully inadequate in addressing that.
You know, you have been an advocate helping recover millions and millions of dollars from the federal government due American citizens. Why does Speaker McCarthy claim that this particular deal slashes more than $2 trillion and would be among the largest cuts in U.S. history? Where's that coming from?
Well, it's really a modest amount of cuts and reforms, a few $1 billion here, a few $1 billion there. You know, if you take it out over the 6 years, when the last 4 years of which are not even enforceable, not even required, it's just aspirational, then over time it could result in a couple of $1 trillion in spending if everything comes into play. But they're also counting things like the administrative pay-go, which the very text of the bill in Section 265 says that the administration can waive that anytime they think it's, quote, essential or necessary. It puts Yolanda Young, the budget director, responsible for deciding whether or not they have to make any of those pay-fors in the spending that the executive branch might do. So they're counting that, and really that's not even enforceable.
In terms of what changes you want to see made, can you just break it down in a really clear, deliberate way? I know your caucus was fighting to make cuts. What would you want in a deal that would say, you know, OK, I can back this, I'm going to vote yes?
Well, we should have held the line on the Limit, Save, Grow bill, which contains canceling the $500 billion student loan transfer scheme. It canceled the $80 billion IRS expansion. It canceled hundreds of billions of dollars, even up to $1 trillion of climate credits that were in the inflation increase bill. It also put in cuts in place. We went back to pre-COVID spending for non-defense discretionary spending, which would save us almost $200 billion there. It had 10-year caps in spending, not just 2-year enforceable caps, but 10-year enforceable caps, where this bill has 2 years enforceable and 4 years kind of just aspirational. It had the REINS Act in there, which would have required a congressional vote on every major rule or regulation that comes out of the administrative agencies and departments of $100 million or more. It had the H.R. 1, renewing American energy, going back to affordable, reliable energy again. Those kinds of reforms would have been a major step in the right direction. In this case, we're basically funding the Biden agenda for 2 more years, basically flattening it, keeping it the same. The reason why you're going to have more Democrats, I suspect, vote for this than Republicans is because they've been able to keep all of the reckless, excessive spending over the last 2 years in place, intact, for 2 more years. It's just Republicans will now own it by voting for it today, any Republican who votes for this bill. I
know my producers want me to wrap things up because of time, but I have to ask you, what do you say to Americans who are fearful that this nation will default if there is not a deal done by June 5th?
No reason to fear there. There won't be a default. We've got $400 billion a month coming into the Treasury. It only takes $70 billion a month to fund the nation's debt in terms of paying the interest, which prevents a technical default. No concern for a default.
OK, so there might be some fear-mongering going on. Congressman Bob Good, we appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.